have a quorum, so I will call this meeting to order. I would just like to remind participants to mute your microphone when you're not speaking, and to please raise your hand and unmute your microphone when you do want to speak, and please wait to be recognized. Additionally, because board members are online this evening, all votes will have to be done via roll call. For our community members joining us and any stakeholders joining us this evening, I would just like to offer a thank you to you for your flexibility and supporting our district as we navigate some challenging times, and being supportive of us moving our meeting online so we can complete the work of our district for our students. We really do appreciate that. Also, just wanted to say how much I appreciate all of our administrative members and everyone joining us tonight online, and doing it a little bit differently for a board meeting tonight. So thank you very much. Our first agenda item tonight is approving our agenda. Do I have a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
We will now vote by roll call to approve tonight's agenda.
Allenberg.
Aye.
Aram.
Aye.
Barry.
Aye.
Herdman.
Aye.
Gabler.
Aye.
Mann.
Aye.
By a vote of 6-0, tonight's agenda is approved. Dr. Stanley, would you please review tonight's agenda for us?
Absolutely. So in just a moment, we're going to hear about excellence in action from some things happening at Southview. We do have members of the public for public comment. I'm really excited to have Marcy Dowd come to speak about 287 programming. The board is going to discuss their work around the election resolution. We have several policies. We are going to hear about some international travel opportunities, about our alternative teacher performance or teacher evaluation and alternative compensation program. Our unified transition project search, really excited about that. Some more policies for approval, and then leadership committee updates and my updates.
Thank you so much, Dr. Stanley. Next on our agenda is our Excellence in Action, and tonight we are lucky to be joined by Southview Principal Tricia Pettis, and she's going to be presenting on Southview's Multi-District Professional Development Day. And I would just like to remind our community that Southview Middle School was just named the 2023 AMLE, which I don't know what that stands for, so maybe Principal Pettis, you could let me know what that stands for, but School of Distinction. It was one of only 11 schools nationwide to receive this honor and the only school in Minnesota to be recognized this year. So it is not surprising that districts from throughout the state seek out Southview to learn best practices on building student agency and belonging through advisory. Principal Pettis is here to tell us more about how Southview is providing educational leadership for other Minnesota schools in our state. Welcome, Principal Pettis.
Thank you. Thank you all for having me. The AMLE stands for American Middle Level Educators Association. So it's a recognition specific to middle level educators. I did have just a couple of slides. I'm not sure if I needed to present those or if somebody, should I go ahead and present?
Yeah, give it a try.
Okay. Oh, wait. Somebody else's. Amazing.
There we go. Excellent service.
So part of that recognition of that award is collaborating and sharing with other middle schools. And this is something that we actually did before the pandemic. Schools would come on visit. We kind of took a break, and then in the last 2 years have brought back site visits. And if you go ahead to the next slide, we have 2 days during the school year, one in the fall and one in the winter, where other middle level educators and teachers, admin, counselors, all different types of staff come to our building and spend a whole day with us. And so this year we've welcomed over 140 educators. It's really fun to partner with our neighboring schools, Wayzata, Minnetonka, and we even have schools as far as Duluth come and visit us. And besides this, these 2 days where people came to our site, we were also asked to hold a full day middle school workshop by the Minnesota Principals Association, where we had over 80 attendees join us for that. And so if you go to the next slide, this day is designed around hearing our work around belonging and agency and literacy and numeracy, how our district is meeting our strategic plan, our vision and mission. Then they get to hear from learners on a learner panel, actually go and visit classrooms and see it in action in the classrooms. Then we offer some breakout professional development sessions where they actually get to hear some specific learnings around the topics we're sharing, and then some processing time in the afternoon. And we get really, such an exciting day full of great energy. And it's really because, and we benefited from at Southview just as much as our attendees through this professional collaboration with other middle level educators, especially locally. We have the best PD we say is the teacher down the hall from you. And so not only are they learning from us, but we're learning from them and what the cool things that they're doing at their schools as well. And it's really about building teacher efficacy and seeing the impact that the teacher's work is having on our community and even local schools. And also it creates leadership opportunities for our students that are sharing. Our students are a big part of that day. Not only do they get to speak to attendees, but what they're demonstrating in their classrooms. And when we went to that workshop that we hosted, we brought 20 students with us, and they helped us lead all of our sessions. And it also creates new additional learning opportunities for our staff, because we do actually charge a fee for this day because we offer professional development. And then we're able to use those funds to send our staff to different learnings and trainings and professional development. So it's really, we have so many benefits besides just sharing our work. We're also learning and as a part of the process as well. So I just have one more, and at that last picture on the right there is we ask participants to share their reflections on our podcast about their day. And if you go to the next slide, we always get really positive feedback from participants as that it was a meaningful day. And they're always walk away excited and impressed by what they're seeing our students and our staff doing. And so we asked them to share some of those takeaways on the podcast. And we have a really fun episode about people's perception of our school and our district. And I highly encourage anyone interested in learning more to check out that podcast. And there's just a picture of all of our learners that we brought with us down to the principals conference in January. So thanks for letting me share.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Board members, do you have questions or comments for Principal Pettis? I see lots of hand clapping, even though they're muted. So thank you so much. Outstanding job and outstanding work. We really appreciate you bringing this information to us and highlighting it. So thank you. Thank you for all the great work at Southview. And I had a chance to hear some of the students during our core planning the other day, and I can attest to just the phenomenal work that you're doing over there. So thank you.
Thank you all. Thanks for giving us a chance to share.
Absolutely. Okay, we're going to move on to hearing from members of the public. And before we start that, I just wanted to remind community members that when you signed in and asked to speak, you acknowledge an understanding and adherence to Board Policy 206, which are our community comments guidelines. Pursuant to this policy, each speaker has a maximum of 3 minutes to speak. When those 3 minutes are up, you must conclude your remarks. If you do not wrap up quickly, your time allotment at the virtual meeting will end. This time is not designated to address items concerning specific staff or students, and personal attacks by anyone at the podium are unacceptable. Or online, sorry, not at the podium, are unacceptable. If this happens, you will be warned, and if you persist, you will no longer be able to continue your remarks. Any feedback about district employees need to go to their respective site level leader, the superintendent, or be submitted to the board in writing. As such, the public comment period will be limited to 15 individuals. Per our updated protocols, the school board will give first priority to Edina Public School students, individuals who have children attending school in the district, individuals who reside in the district, or individuals who are employed by the district. The school board will give second priority to individuals who wish to address a specific item that is on the agenda for that meeting. If your form is not filled out completely, you are not eligible to be called to speak. All efforts have been made to ensure multiple viewpoints are expressed, and multiple individuals expressing the same viewpoint or multiple people from the same organization should consider consolidating their remarks. Finally, during the public comment period, our role as a board is to listen, but this is not a place for the board to resolve any concerns, and as such, no comments will be made from the board. Issues will potentially be referred to the superintendent for appropriate follow-up. Thank you very much for your cooperation. We do have one individual that requested to speak tonight, Meg Carlson, and I believe she has joined us virtually. Meg Carlson, are you here?
Hello. Yes, I'm here.
Hi, thank you so much for joining us.
Hi.
Apologize that we are doing this online and not in person, but I really appreciate the fact that you joined us.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Whenever you're ready, you're more than welcome to start your 3-minute community comment.
Good evening. My name is Meg Ahmed Carlson, and I've open enrolled my 2 young children at EPS for the upcoming school year. And while I'm excited about the academic opportunities for my kids, I also have some great concerns. To begin, I'm Palestinian. I come from a diverse family in Palestine. They live all across the region, from the West Bank to Jerusalem to the Mediterranean Sea. And they practice a variety of religions. Some are Christian, some Muslim, some Druze, and some Jewish. Where they live in the region and which religion they practice determines their level of freedom. For example, my Jewish aunts and uncles have full rights and citizenship, but my Christian family in the West Bank is primarily stuck behind the wall. My Druze cousins are required to serve in the Israeli army, and while my Muslim aunts and uncles who live in Jerusalem have more freedom of movement than our Christian family, they are still lower class than my Jewish and Druze family. The recent censure and suspension of 2 Somali students for saying from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, has demonstrated a grave deficiency in your understanding of the Palestinian people and our plight. This is not some coded anti-Semitic slogan that is propaganda used to silence the Palestinian people. When we say from the river to the sea, we are referencing the geography of the land from the Jordan River and the Mediterranean Sea. We're calling for all Palestinians to be free from occupation, to be equal citizens on their native land. That means Christians, Muslims, Druze, and Jews. We're calling for the equal rights of all people, regardless of religion, an end to the caste system and occupation. Am I to understand that equality and freedom for all are values that you don't support? Because when you suspended these students, that's certainly the impression that was left. Furthermore, your silence and refusal to listen to and address my community's concerns makes the situation even worse. Moving these meetings online has simply demonstrated a lack of courage on your part to confront these difficult conversations head on. As an educator myself, I exhort my students to get curious, lean in, and ask the difficult questions when they don't understand something or find it challenging. The decision to avoid community engagement and dialogue paints a picture of ignorance or worse, racism. Because let's be clear, these are not just any students that were suspended. They're Black, they're Somali, and they're Muslim. I implore you to be better role models for our students, engage in a meaningful conversation with my community. There is much about the Palestinian community that you have yet to learn, and it's only by leaning in, asking questions, and having conversation with us that you will know us better.
Ms. Carlson, your 3
Great
minutes are up.
educators, thank you. Great educators acknowledge their limits of understanding and
Ms.
seek to
Carlson,
themselves.
you need to finish.
Show us that you can be great educators and role models for all of our children, regardless
you.
of race or ethnicity
Thank
or
you
religion.
very much. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to our consent agenda. Oh, I apologize. I skipped over our presentation. Is Ms. Dowd online? Excellent. Superintendent Dowd, I apologize. We're happy to welcome Superintendent Dow, the superintendent of District 287, and she's here to present information to both the board and the community about District 287, which Edina Schools is part of, and she's going to explain more about the district and how it serves our students.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Superintendent Dr. Stanley, members of the board. I am Marcy Dowd. I'm the proud superintendent of Intermediate School District 287. And with me, I have Principal Deb Carlson-Doom. And we are here tonight just to share a little bit more about how we are your partner in Intermediate District 287. I've not seen the slides up yet. Are they? There we go. Thank you. All right. So the next slide talks about our mission in District 287. And our mission is to be the premier provider of innovative specialized services to ensure that each member district can meet the unique learning needs of its students. And that's really critical because it's about us partnering with you so you can do all the great things you do for your students and your families. So we are not, an intermediate is not an independent school district. Families can't open enroll in an intermediate district. They really work with you as a member district to provide that continuum of services. And then our teams, your Edina and Intermediate District 287, come together and talk about programming for students. So I'll go to the next slide. We just finished our strategic plan, just like a traditional district. And in our strategic plan, we have 3 focus areas: achieving academic success, making sure that all of our learners are hitting the marks and all of their growth targets, cultivating equity and inclusion, promoting social emotional learning. And so we're excited to launch this, and we already have seen great gains when we really focus in on what our students needs. In the next slide, it really talks about some fun facts about District 287. So in 1965, Intermediate District 287 started. It was a West Metro member districts came together and said, you know, we really need to develop career and tech education, but we don't have the capacity in all of our districts to build a big auto shop or a big construction. It also talked about, you know what, we have students in special education, but we may have a student that has unique needs, and there's one that might be visually blind, and we don't really have the community or the continuum of support that each individual district has to develop. So they came together and developed Intermediate District 287 in kind of economy of scale and building communities for our learners. There's 4 intermediate school districts in the state of Minnesota, and we're regionally organized. And we believe that District 287, we are we're an extension of our member districts. We are not in competition. We are not enrolling students. We really are that economy of scale to provide a continuum of services for all of your students. In District 287, we have 12 member districts, and we, for our specialized programming, we only support specialized services in our 12 member districts. As you go to the next slide, someone might say, well, we provide special education services in Edina. How are we different? And really, Edina does an amazing job providing special education services in the most inclusive way for all of your students and families. And then there's some times where students need more than what the programming has available in Edina. So sometimes we talk about special education in their federal settings, and it's really about how much time does a student get removed from general education and just have special education services for a portion of their day. So Edina Public Schools can provide federal setting 1, 2, and 3, and where they need our support is when we provide federal setting 4, which is a separate school where they do students are not integrated with students in general education. It just is a specialized services for students in special education only. And so if a student needs that, our member districts are working with families, trying all of the interventions, trying everything and keep them in that inclusive homeschool. And then there's times they need us, and that's when Edina Public Schools or any other member district will contact us, and we talk about a plan together to support a student and family. In the next slide, just to talk about some of our programs, we have 4 main educational centers. On the slide, you'll see where they're located, the grade bands in which they serve in specialized services, and also which ones have alternative learning centers. You can also see I put the enrollment of how many students, Edina Public School students, are in each of the sites. And so South, just in proximity, is the site that has the most of the students. We'll go to the next one. We also have other programming besides our 4 special education federal sites. We have Northern Star online program. It's not a school, it's a program. And so what the difference is that we provide supplemental courses. We are not necessarily a full day school. So we supplement what our member districts, and for online, also non-member districts. So an example could be for a language course, again, you can't provide the continuum of all languages. And so we may provide a Mandarin Chinese course if a student is interested in that language, where maybe some high schools in our member districts aren't able to do that. Or you have Spanish as one of your languages. And then as they go through Spanish 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you might not have enough enrollment to support Spanish 4 or 5, and that's where we can kick in and have our Spanish teachers support classes from multiple districts, and students can access those higher level. We also have AP courses, and sometimes students, based on a member district's high school schedule, they have the required graduation credits, and then they want to take a language, and they want to take music, and sometimes they need other times in the day to get that done, or they want to start their day earlier so that they can get released to go to a job and support their family in the afternoon. All of those unique situations, our online program supports our member districts. We also provide educational services, general education services, and special education services in our care and treatment facilities. We have 10 sites, and for Edina, it's Prairie Care, it's a partial hospitalization. But we provide all of our member districts, we provide care and treatment educational services. We also have a career and tech education program that's located at Hennepin Technical College in Eden Prairie. And we have some of the courses listed there in the enrollment. One of our largest mobile team is our itinerant services. And so itinerant services really is speech language, assistive technology, all of the related services that wrap around students in special education, and what we call low incident, meaning there's not a lot of students that have that categorical disability. As we go to the next slide, you can see our member districts and all of our itinerant services that we provide. We support over 1,400 students within our sites, as well as all of our member districts for itinerant services. Some of the services that Edina has historically participated with is we have teachers of students that are physically impaired. It's a specific license that we provide that licensure and consultation. Sometimes it's direct support, and sometimes it's consultation to your special education teams. We have our audiologists, our blind, visual impaired teachers, and we have orientation and mobility specialist, as well as an augmentative communication specialist that's really supporting students in finding their voice through the use of technology. So that is a little bit about District 287. And now I'm going to pass it off to Principal Deb to share about a Edina student and how we work together to develop an extension of programming.
Thank you, Marcy. I'm so happy to be with you. My name is Deb Carlson-Doom, and I'm the principal at South Education Center, which is located in Richfield, And as you saw on Marcy's PowerPoint or slideshow, we have about 26 students from the Edina School District with us right now. If we go back to the slideshow, I think the last 8 slides are about a young man from Edina. Yeah. So I'm going to talk a little bit about a 4th grade student that we have at South Education Center who came to us just about 3 years ago from Edina School District. And when Rue came to us, we really collaborated a great deal with Edina because we were having a really hard time in Edina. And when he started with us, just getting Rue to be able to be in school. So he started with us with 2 staff to support him, and he was attending for about 1 hour a day. And now over the last 3 years, Rue's able to attend full days of school in a classroom with 4 or 5 peers and 1 support professional who helps him. So he's had a tremendous amount of growth. And we can go to the next slide. So here's Rue. And he is in our Tier 3 elementary program. And you saw on Marcy's slideshow that we serve students in kindergarten all the way through age 22. And we serve students with a variety of disabilities and also a variety of abilities. And Rue has autism spectrum disorder, and he also has a speech and language impairment. And his teacher says that this really contributes to his individualized approach to learning. And if you ask anybody that works with Rue, they will tell you that he exudes positivity and joy, and he really loves to be wherever he is. I mean, he really owns his place. We can go to the next slide. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Rue's family, and one of the things that happens often, especially in a district like Edina, people feel very connected to their district, and they have a lot of pride in the Edina School District. And when a student is being referred, we work super hard with the liaisons from Edina to make sure that the family knows that that we aren't an other, we're an extension of Edina. And so every intake meeting, every IEP meeting, every time we're doing any kind of conversation about a change that might be happening to Rue's programming, Edina is at the table with us so that families feel their full support, not only of the South Education Center staff, but also of Edina staff. I just want to make sure that you know that Rue's mom and dad know that we're here tonight, and they also shared a lot about Rue's story with us, so that you would have a full understanding, sort of the challenges, and also then how proud everyone is about Rue's successes. So Rue was born in China, and when he was about 2 days old, he was placed in a nursery, and everyone in the orphanage where he was placed spoke Cantonese. And he was there for about 9 months. And after 9 months, they determined that Rue was experiencing failure to thrive. And so they needed to move him to an orphanage that had a higher staffing ratio. So in order to do that, they had to move him out of the city where he was into another city that had an orphanage that might be able to better support him. What that also meant was everyone at the new orphanage spoke Mandarin. So when he was between 9 and 10 months old, he made a huge change. It was placed in an orphanage fairly far away from where he was born. He was there for about 9 months and continued to have failure to thrive. And they got really worried about his survival. And so they started looking for a family who could potentially foster him. And so they found a British family, and they moved Rue in with the British family who only spoke English, and they had a nanny who spoke Cantonese. So then at 18 months, he went from being in a home that spoke Mandarin into a home that spoke Cantonese. He was with that family just for a short period of time, and then placed with his family that he's currently with the Brown family. And he is the youngest of 3 siblings. And the older brother is not in any of these pictures because he's graduated from college, but he is beloved by Rue. And so the family picked him up, spent some time in China, came home. Rue was born with a cleft palate and a cleft lip. When he got into the United States, he started a series of surgeries, and he just had his last surgery at the end of 3rd grade last year. And so Rue's family has been through a tremendous amount in terms of language acquisition, in terms of medical needs, and then in terms of his emotional needs. And you can go to the next slide.
And just want to
Oh,
reiterate,
yeah.
just want to reiterate and just thank the Brown family for their openness and Rue to share his story and let us share it with you. And so just want to acknowledge that permission and openness, just a great example of how we collaborate together.
Michael was at the 287 board meeting when we talked about Rue, and I was saying that they weren't able to attend that board meeting, but Rue's mom, Susan, told us before that board meeting, we should be grateful because once she starts talking about Rue, she doesn't quit, so no one would be able to go home. You can go to the next slide. So here's Rue in his own words. He says, "My name is Rue Brown. I am 10 years old. I like playing sports and high flying, except for he says, I like playing sports and high flying." Like that, because as I mentioned to you, he really likes having fun. "I am the champion. I like the go-karts and I like music, and my favorite colors are black and orange." And here's Rue in one of our sensory rooms. It's a pretty big room, and we have 4 of these go-karts, and they are probably one of the favorite things of Rue and most of the students that are in his program. You can go to the next slide. Thank you. So one of the challenges, right, is academics for students that come to us and meeting kids where they are. And so Rue is in a class with 4 other students. All of them are in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. And they use a literacy curriculum called Unique Learning Systems. And you can see here that Rue actually has a copy of a book. And he is able to listen to staff read it and point out each word, and then Rue is able to read it, pointing at each word. And after he's read the short story a few times, he's able to answer comprehension questions on his own with very little help from the staff. And what's notable here, besides the fact I think that the teaching staff who've worked with Rue over the last 3 years are amazing, is that Rue really has gone from very little language, and certainly not able to read and only attending school for 1 hour a day, to being able to read and answer comprehension questions and continually increase his ability to communicate verbally. And after his last surgery last year, they sealed the hole on the top of his mouth. And all of a sudden, when he went to speech, the air would come out of his mouth instead of through his nose. And so he had all kinds of abilities to say new language and to say new words and to make new sounds. So over the course of this year, he's learned like the TH sound, the M sound, and the B sound. And when I go into the room, because I went back today to prepare for tonight and just like find out, it's so funny how proud everyone is. Like they're like, "Oh no, he can do this now." Buh. I was like, awesome. I'll make sure that everyone at the Edina School Board knows that Rue is nailing the buh sound. In addition to academic work, we work really hard to help students gain self-regulation skills. And every student has an opportunity to work with OT, with speech, with DAPE, whatever they qualify for, and then also whatever they need in order to figure out what are the things that most help them calm themselves. And then we practice those things when they're not escalated so that they can implement them when they are escalated. And Rue's got 3 good ones here. He really likes gross body movement, so he really likes jumping. So you can see he's got these jumping blocks. He also really likes hand squeezes and deep breaths. You can do 5 hand squeezes and 5 deep breaths. And recently, in working with a DAPE teacher, it turns out that he really likes deep pressure and weight. And so he started doing the leg press. So he goes usually with the DAPE teacher to do leg press. But one day the DAPE teacher was gone, and Rue really likes routine, as do many of our students. So the teacher took him to do the machines, and Rue's on the leg press, and he knows what he's supposed to do, so he's doing it. Then he ups the weight, and he's doing it, and he ups the weight, and he's doing it, and he gets off. And the teacher's name is Megan. She said, "Well, I just figured I'm just going to check it out, see what he can do." So she gets on, and she couldn't lift it. And she's like, "Oh, Rue's getting really strong." Like, I think that's true. Susan and her husband gave us several quotes about our work at 287 with Rue. And here's one. She said, "School is more than reading and writing. It is the pride of having family come to view student classroom art, the ability to make friends, a science fair presentation, and a place to laugh. District 287 Self Education Center masterfully delivers those experiences for unique learners, and that is why our son is thriving." And the next slide has a picture of Rue. He did a quite an extensive science fair project. Probably you remember it from doing it with your own children or doing it yourself, where you get all white carnations and you cut them off and you put them in dye, and you do things where you time it and you see which dyes work more or whatever. So Rue did that, and he worked on his board, and he did his entire presentation for his mom once. And then he was in the hallway here, and every other family or classroom that came by, he decided he was not going to talk, but he would share the board. So he's really proud of that. We also have we have Makerspace, which is a place where kids can go to do kind of STEM stuff. So some science, technology, engineering, math. And Rue's favorite thing when he's in Makerspace is circuits. And so here you can see he's working on completing a circuit, and then that should get the little helicopter thing to fly. One of the things I think that in Rue's classroom, they're really trying to learn is not how to take turns, although that's a piece of it, but learning authentic cooperative play. So learning how to stay engaged when it's not your turn, and learning how to care about how someone else does when it's not you in the spotlight. And partly because the age of the boys, they're all 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders, so they're all getting a little older. Partly because our speech person and our OT person and then all the classroom staff have really dedicated a lot of time to this. They're really figuring it out, so that when they go into the gym and they play a game, or they play, I can't remember what game this is, but another one is Candyland. When it's not their turn, they can pay attention to the game, they can cheer for their friend, they can remain engaged the whole time. Which kind of leads us to the last slide. In our school and at Edina, like, our job is education, right? I mean, we work together to ensure that students have access to literacy and math, that they're learning SEL, and that stuff is important to families. But I think what's also very important to families is that their child feels safe and happy, and that they have friendships and they learn how to maintain those as they get older. And when Rue came to us 3 years ago, one of the things his mom and dad talked about was they just wanted Rue to have a friend. Like, that's what their goal was. And this year, when Rue turned 10, he had a birthday party, and every boy from his class came, and it was at Sky Zone. And I think it was a little crazy and a little hectic, but also wonderful. And the boys were able to play and celebrate Rue, and now they've had, I think, subsequent play dates and connections. And so because we worked with you and because you worked with us to get Rue here, he's come this far. I'm really happy to answer questions or or anything, but it is a pleasure to collaborate with you all.
Thank you both so much for presenting and for that story. That was outstanding. Appreciate it. Board members, do you have comments or questions? And I might ask Director Bergman first, since he is representing District 287 as our board member. And for those in the community that don't know, District 287 has its own school board, and we're fortunate enough that Director Bergman sits on that board as well. So he does a little bit of double duty. So we really do appreciate that, Director Bergman, and would love just to hear a couple comments that you might have.
Yeah, thank you, Deb, for bringing this forward. As we discussed before, just like we do in Edina when we do our Excellent in Action, 287 at every board meeting, we do the same thing. We have a presentation that's done at every board meeting about recognition of a story, a staff, an element that we're then working on. And this came to us, I think it was back in January or February, I can't remember what it was. And I was not expecting to hear about one of our Edina students when it was presented. And one of the great things is that there's 12 districts that 287 supports, and we are one of them. It makes it even more real when you see all the amazing work that 287 does, and you get to then see it for one of our students. And that Rue is an Edina student who happens to attend 287. That's what's really important for all of us on the board to recognize, but it's also for our community to recognize they are our community, they are our students, and they're in partnership with us. And this is why I'm the representative for Edina on 287 with the other 11 districts. It is such a wonderful story to see the beginnings and the end, and that everyone can recognize that we have a very difficult job that we do every day, trying to each and every take care of all of our students and bring them to their potential. This is a wonderful example of many examples at 287 of taking amazing students, amazing staff who have all sorts of unique challenges and every day delivering for that. And so my big sort of kind of blessing is, especially for some of our new board members, the more we understand what's happening in 287 is how we better understand what's happening in Edina, because they're kind of simpatico. And so I just want to appreciate what Deb and her team have done. Superintendent Dowd, I've had the privilege since she became the superintendent. I got on the board when she became superintendent. 287 has been doing a wonderful, wonderful job with also extraordinarily challenging financial concerns, staffing concerns, everything that we struggle with in Edina. They have just as many that they're trying to do every day to take care of these wonderful students. So I can't go on enough about it, but I'm glad that we were able to finally have this presentation, and hopefully everyone felt the same, that it's pretty amazing considering this is our student and our family, and that they're taking such good care of. So thank you.
Thank you, Director Bergman. Do any other board members have questions or comments? I would just, Director Bergman, or I'm sorry, Director Aram.
Just a real quick question. Of the 4 sites, I noticed that, do the families get to choose that, or is it based on availability, or how do people go to the different sites? Or
Yeah, thank you for the question. We actually work with the district. Usually proximity is what we do. Because we're located regionally within our 12-member districts, kind of spread out. That's why you see the kind of the cluster of Edina enrollment over at South and Richfield is just about transportation, community together, and then in part it can be about programming. So our North and South programs are identical, and then our West program and our Ann Bremer, so grade bands types of programming. But we usually work with it's really about what programming is needed for the student and where the student lives.
thank you.
Yep.
Thank you so much. It doesn't look like we have any more questions. So thank you both again for bringing all this information to us and all the work you do for all the students from all the different districts. And we will certainly have you back at minimum next year to provide another update for us. And appreciate you taking care of those Edina students that you have. So thank you.
Thank you. And it's absolutely our pleasure. So have a great night.
Thank you, you too.
Thanks, Marcy. Thanks, Deb.
Okay, we're going to move on to our consent agenda. Is there anything anyone would like to remove from our consent agenda? Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
We will now vote by roll call to approve the consent agenda.
Ellenberg,
Aye.
Aram,
Aye.
Barry,
Aye.
Birdman,
Aye.
Gabler,
Aye.
Mann.
Aye.
By a vote of 6-0, the consent agenda is approved. We're going to move on to our discussion items, and we have 2 discussion items tonight. The first one is a school board election resolution to move school board elections to even years. This has been discussed multiple iterations over the last 2 years, and was most recently discussed at our last work session. A brief history on this. As I said, this issue has been discussed multiple times, and the board has decided to move forward with moving school board elections to even years in order to save money for the school district. So what this resolution does is put forward the process for doing so. The easiest way to get that accomplished is to add a year onto the current terms of the existing school board members. There was a question that I just want to point out. I appreciated that one of our board members brought up last time regarding if we can or cannot add, I apologize, subtract a year from school board terms because the state law says that school boards can either add a year or subtract a year. And I just want to clarify for anyone watching that, yes, the state law does say you could either add a year or subtract a year. What that is in reference to is when you're actually calling the election. When you're calling the election, you can decide, as opposed to doing 4-year terms like you normally do, you could do a 3-year term to then move it to an even year, or you could do a 5-year term to move it to an even year. According to the legal counsel at Minnesota School Board Association, our state constitution does not provide for sitting members of a board to change the terms of duly elected officials. When you've been duly elected for a 4-year term, you cannot change those terms against the wishes of the electorate. And so I just wanted to clarify that the only option that we have as sitting board members to move us to even years is to extend us by a year, to wait and run 2 more odd year elections that are then 3-year terms, which pushes this out 2 elections at a cost of around $300,000 to the district, or to keep it at odd year elections. Those are the 3 options. Given the financial situation the district is in, that is how we landed at adding the 1 year, because then we can move it right now and save the district money right now. And so I wanted to provide clarity around how we ended at this being the best option for the district. That being said, the resolution itself is pretty cut and dry. It basically adds that year to the term and explains exactly when the even year elections would start. I will stop talking and I will see if there are questions from board members or clarifications board members would like to ask, knowing that this will be coming up for action next month. Sorry, Director Gabler.
Thanks, Chair Ellenberg, and thanks for that clarification. I saw that in your report too. That was helpful. A clarification that I would just like as we move forward with this resolution. The city, I know, has verbally said that should we move these elections to even years, that it would cost us $0. And I know that's a big motivation for us to consider moving them. I would like to at some point have that in writing, that we will not be charged anything should we move these to even years. I'm not sure if it's legal, or and maybe that's the law, that they can't charge us if we have it in the even years. But I just would hate for us to go through this whole thing and then have us um, it in, informed that we are now responsible for splitting the election costs.
Thank you, Director Gabler. That makes sense. And the city school district team can look into that and try to get that done as soon as possible. So thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else from board members? Okay. We will move on to our policy review, and I will turn it back to Director Gabler to lead us through a policy review.
Okay, it's everyone's favorite time of the evening. All right, I am going to invite Director Saylor to speak to us about most of the policies that we have up for discussion tonight. So I will turn it over to you.
Sounds good. Thank you, Director Gabler, Chair Allenberg, Superintendent Stanley, members of the school board. So we have 8 400 series policies to review tonight for your consideration and discussion. The first policy is Employee Right to Know, Exposure to Hazardous Substances, Policy 407. The recommendations for changes or modifications to this policy are very minimal, largely from the school board style guide. Just to point out a couple of the minimal changes, we in section 4 just made note that there's annual training that occurs within the school district, specifically for employee groups or employee classes, positions that are routinely exposed to hazardous substances. And then, of course, there are also an as-needed training for new employees or employees who move from one position to another where they become exposed or routinely exposed to hazardous substances. So with those couple of recommendations, those are the only recommendations for modifications to policy 407. Are there any questions? Okay. The next policy for your review and discussion is policy on employee publications, instructional materials, inventions, and creations, policy 409. Again, very minimal recommendations for modifications. With the exception of style guide changes, the only recommendation for modification to this policy is the addition of section 4, which is the notice of this policy, specifically stating that the school district will give each new employee notice of this policy at the time of hire, and then also posted in all school buildings. For the board's understanding, we actually already do that, but we talked as a policy committee, and it's always a good idea to include that notice within the body of the policy to ensure that continues forward as well. Are there any questions about policy 409? Okay. Moving on to policy 410, which is on the family and medical leaves. Again, beyond style guide recommendations, there are only 2 recommended modifications in policy 410. The first one is found in section 3, specifically removing and then renumbering the old section 3B that talked about the Minnesota Pregnancy and Parenting Leave Law and the term of employment that was required and the number of hours that were required under that law. And the reason we're removing that is because in the last legislative session, in the 2003 spring session, the law was changed where for the Minnesota law, we no longer have a term requirement or an hours requirement under that particular leave law. In addition to that, we made a few modifications to add more inclusionary language, specifically around being consistent in using child as opposed to son or daughter, and employee as opposed to male or female. And those were the only changes recommended for policy 410. Are there any questions? Okay. Policy 431, which is on compensatory practices. There's only one recommendation for an addition to this policy, and that addition is found in section 3 and newly added provision under G. And that's simply to align school district practice and frankly wage and hour law along with this policy. Compensatory time is allowed in Minnesota for public employers. However, there is for non-exempt employees, you both the employer and the employee must agree that compensatory time will be paid in lieu of overtime. And so we just added language to make that clear. Again, that is the practice of our school district. And of course, it's also the law in the state of Minnesota. But we added the language just to make that aid the reader with that understanding as well. Are there any questions about policy 431? Okay. Policy 432, which is assignment and transfer of teachers. This is, again, just simple style guide recommendations. The only area where we made any change beyond style guide is under the definitions section 3. G, under the definition of teacher, we formerly used the definition community education teachers. We have changed that definition or are making that recommendation to change that to preschool teachers. We also had a conversation at the policy committee level that right now, licensure is not required for preschool teachers in our state. However, that is expected to change as of July 1, 2028. So this is one that we'll need to keep on the list to take another look at this in the next year or two to ensure that we're up to date on that section or definition within this board policy. And that really is the only recommended change to policy 432. Are there any questions? Okay. The next policy is policy 435, which is on the topic of employee evaluation and improvement. For this policy, the only recommendation for modifications are per the style guide. So just simply style guide changes. Any questions? Okay. And then policy 437, which is resignation, termination, or non-renewal of activity position. Here are just a couple of minimal recommendations for modifications. specifically under purpose, added the language to better provide an understanding of what positions we're talking about in policy 437, which added the such as athletic coach or club advisor, which is the most typical positions within our activities department that apply to policy 437. We also added under section 3 C, as provided by law, just when specifically if an employee is a head varsity coach, and a head varsity coach, if the school district makes a decision not to renew the contract of a head varsity coach, there's actually Minnesota statute that addresses that. And so just to say that, of course, the district would follow that process, which is found in the legal references as well. And those were the only recommended modifications for 437. Any questions? Okay. All right, the last of the 400 series, policy 439, which is outside employment and conflict of interest. This too, in addition to a few style guide recommended changes, there's really only one recommended addition, and that is under the category of tutoring for pay. So section 3H, and simply it was just adding a provision number 2 to aid the reader to ensure that there is understanding that under the Code of Ethics for Minnesota teachers, a teacher may not use professional relationships with students or parents to private advantage. And just to make sure that that's something that all of our faculty understand as well. We had a conversation during policy committee to find out how our faculty are, how they're made aware of the tutoring provision within this policy. Had a chance to go out to our principals and ask that question. Our principals share the procedures around tutoring found in policy 439 with their faculty, and then their faculty lets them know, their principal know if they are tutoring for a student or if they are taking steps to make arrangements for tutoring for a student, just so their principal can work with them to ensure that it's in compliance with the board's policy on that topic. So are there any questions on policy 439? Okay. Those are the 8400 series policies. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Director Saylor. And our last policy up for discussion this evening is policy 812, and I believe we have Dr. Smazel presenting on that. Is that correct?
Yep. Good evening. Policy 812 is all about safe and healthy environment for students, employees, and the public. Two very minor changes in the policy. Under 3B, the district, and we are crossing out this part of the policy that describes each school as having to have an emergency management plan. So really we have an emergency management plan as a district, and that encompasses all of our sites. And so just making that clarification in the policy, we also add a line that the details about that emergency management plan can be found in policy 806, where we go into great depth about the emergency management plan. And then with that, there were a couple of clarifying language pieces added to the appendix. So appendix 1 at the back to just clarify the health and safety site committee guidelines. So again, two minor changes to 812, but just trying to create a little bit more clarity about our health and safety district committee versus having those at the site.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions on policy 812? Fabulous. Thank you to our administrators that put in all the work to make sure these are ready. That means this slate of policies that we discussed here will move forward to the board for action at our May meeting.
Great. Thank you, Policy Committee. Appreciate it. All right, we're going to move on to our action items. Do I have a motion to approve the international travel recommendations?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Outstanding. I would like to welcome back Director of Teaching and Learning, Jody D. St. Hubert, to discuss these travel requests.
Thank you, Chair Allenberg. Good evening, Dr. Stanley, board directors, colleagues, and community members. Our two international travel experiences for this evening that we are approving are: one is the travel experience to Vancouver, Canada. That's in connection with Model UN at the high school. And the second is a travel experience to Montreal and Quebec that is run through Valley View Middle School in connection with French immersion programming. Both of these have been brought to discussion, and so I'm going to turn it over if there are any further questions at this time.
I don't have a question. I would just like to clarify for anyone watching that the Montreal trip is one that we run. It's not a new trip. It's one that we run. And then the Vancouver trip normally is a national trip through Model UN that they annually have this event. It just so happens that it's in Vancouver this year, which is why it's an international travel request. So I just wanted to clarify those two things.
Yeah, thank you, Bird.
Yep. Now that I've done that, are there any other questions or comments from board members regarding these before we vote? Outstanding. We will now vote again by roll call on the international travel recommendations.
Allenberg,
Aye.
Aram,
Aye.
Barry,
Aye.
Birdman,
Aye.
Gabler,
Aye.
Mann.
Aye.
By a vote to 6-0, the international travel recommendations are approved. Thank you very much. Do I have a motion to approve the reauthorization of the Teacher Evaluation and Alternative Compensation Program Memorandum of Understanding?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Let's mark Michael down for that one. We have Director of Teaching and Learning, Jody D. St. Hubert, Teacher Program Facilitator, Libby Sandvik. And do we have Special Education Teacher, Debbie Kringle tonight? No?
Tonight, thank you for
Okay,
asking.
no problem, no
It's been a
problem.
highlight.
I know. Okay,
Yes.
thank you, and go ahead.
Okay, thank you again, Chair Allenberg. Libby Sandvik and I are here. We have already brought this report also to discussion at a board workshop and then at a board meeting. I'm going to let Libby just highlight what happened when we went to the Teacher Evaluation Committee, and then we'll turn it over for any questions or additional comments.
Yes, on March 14th, I brought the MOU to EME for action, and they did approve the new MOU and did not have any questions or concerns with the document as presented.
Board members, do you have any questions or comments about this agenda item? Okay, hearing no questions or comments, we'll now move to a roll call vote.
Allenberg,
Aye.
Aram,
Aye.
Barry,
Aye.
Birdman,
Aye.
Gabler,
Aye.
Mann.
Aye.
By a vote of 6-0, the reauthorization of the Teacher Evaluation and Alternative Compensation Program Memorandum of Understanding is approved. Thank you, team, for your work on this. I appreciate it.
Thank
And the
you.
rest of the board does as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the Unified Project Search Proposal?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
I'd like to welcome Director of Student Support Services, Jody Remsing, here to present this item to us.
I'm just having a little bit of trouble with my camera this evening, getting it turned on.
No
So
worries.
Okay, I apologize.
Yeah.
All
No
right. Well,
problem.
good evening, Madam Chair, Dr. Stanley, and members of the board. It's my pleasure to be here to talk to you about Project Search. a really exciting collaboration opportunity that I'm bringing forth tonight for you to consider. It originally came to the district from the Minnesota Department of Education, seeking collaboration with Southview, Fairview, Southdale Hospital, the Minnesota Department of Employment and Economic Development, otherwise known as DEED, for our district to consider hosting a collaboration with Project Search at Fairview Southdale Hospital, providing for a 9-month internship opportunity for students in their final year of transition programming, where they would be able to participate in 3 different internships that allow for the students to really immerse themselves in hands-on learning. The exciting thing about Project Search is it's an established program where students hold really good post-school outcomes, where they are able to develop marketable skills. Project Search really works on making sure that students have transferable skills, and so they really focus on 5 of the 10 most in-demand careers. 70% of students are employed following their internship, and over 40% are even asked to stay on by the host business. So it's a really interesting opportunity for us. It allows the opportunity for the district to start moving into some transition programming on a small scale for select students within our district, and we're just excited about the opportunity. I know that I've spoken before with the board at a work session and also at different committee meetings, and so I don't want to go through everything all over again in detail, but I would be happy to answer any questions or to provide clarification on any questions you may have regarding our proposal this evening.
Board members, do you have questions or clarifications or comments?
Just excited about the opportunity. I'm really glad that we were able to put something like this together.
Thank you. I wish you could see my face because I'm beaming right now.
Yeah, I really appreciate you bringing this forward, Director Rensing. I think the ability to offer an enhanced programming and at the same time have it not cost the district any more money is brilliant. So thank you for doing that, especially for this group of students. I'm super excited to see it in action next year. So thank you.
Thank you.
If there's nothing else, we'll now move to a vote.
Allenberg,
Aye.
Aram,
Aye.
Barry,
Aye.
Bird,
Aye.
Gabler,
Aye.
Mann.
Aye.
By a vote of 6-0, the Unified Project Search proposal is approved. Do I have a motion to approve policies 401, 402, 403, 404, 405, 423, 503, 513, and 719?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Policy Chair Gabler?
Yes. Policy committee has been very busy. We have these policies that you saw at last month's meeting. There are 2 policies that I want to draw your attention to. The first one is policy 719. That was brought back to the committee after our work session to authorize attaching an updated appendix that incorporates the state's approval of the district terms application relating to 504 documents. So it's the same policy that you saw last month. The only change is on page 38. There is one line that adds clarification that what our retention policy is going to be around 504s. So are there any questions in regards to that change? Okay, great. And then policy 403, I'm going to ask Director Saylor to just speak a little bit. I appreciate the board's questions at last month's meeting about clearing up some of the language in regards to the new legalization of marijuana. And so I'm going to let Director Saylor talk about how she modified this policy from the last time that you've seen it.
Thank you, Director Gabler. Yes, so following our discussion at the work session on the 26th of March. We brought this back to policy committee to make a couple of additions. What we did is add the definitions section, section 3, and specifically reviewed this policy 403 in line with policy 418, which is our drug-free workplace policy as well. And so aligning those, adding those next to each other, we added the relevant definitions to aid the reader to understand the newly added drugs to policy 403 that are prohibited in the workplace by this policy, and then also made that modification under section 4 under misconduct, specifically under paragraph 7, to include medical cannabis, non-intoxicating cannabinoids, and edible cannabinoid products to the list of drugs that employees are prohibited from using on the job or off the job if it would impact their performance within their position as well. And so those were the changes that we made in response to the good discussion that we had at the work session. Are there any questions?
So can you clarify where are the definitions?
They're under, so there's a new definition section added, and it's the new section 3 of policy 403.
I don't know, but I think we have an old version.
I think so too. The current version looks like it was not uploaded to
Yeah.
the board packet.
Oh, okay.
So I think that we're going, I think we're going to have to.
Let's hold on that one.
We're going to have to hold on that one.
Okay.
Because we don't have the updated version.
Mhm.
Okay, in the packet. Okay.
Sorry.
No,
So-
that's okay.
It was a great explanation. I was like, I don't see anything that she's talking about. So
And she made great work on this policy for. So we will put that on the docket. You will see that in June.
okay.
No, May is our next month. So we will have that up for action with the slate of the other policies. So we'll make sure that we have that uploaded, the correct one uploaded.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. So
All
can I
right.
have a motion to
No,
remove?
we have one. Sorry, I misspoke. We have one more. We have one more guest to speak to. Policy 503. Dr. Smazel was going to speak to the changes because that was also, there was some questions on this at last month's meeting. So I wanted to give Dr. Smazel an opportunity to speak to the changes he made to that.
So thank you. Part of what we discussed in the work session was to add a reference to Appendix 2, and then to create some clarity around a specific bullet defining what we mean by kind of breaking down unique learning challenges. And so we rewrote that particular bullet in the policy based on feedback from the work session.
Does anyone have any questions about that policy? Okay, great. Thank you, Dr. Smazel.
Okay. Could I please have a motion to remove policy 403 from our action item? I'm sorry, policy 503 from our action item.
No, 403.
Oh, I was getting confused. May I please have a motion to remove policy 403 from our action? Is there a second?
Second.
We need to do a roll call vote to remove policy 403 from our action item.
Allenberg,
Aye.
Aram,
Aye.
Barry,
Aye.
Birdman,
Sorry, aye.
Gabler,
Aye.
Mann,
Aye.
The motion carries. So policy 403 has been removed from our action item. So we can now do a roll call vote to approve all the other policies with the removal of policy 403.
Allenberg,
Aye.
Aram,
Aye.
Barry, Barry,
Aye.
Birdman,
Aye.
Gabler,
Aye.
Mann.
Aye.
The motion action item passes 6-0, and the policies are approved. So thank you, policy committee, and we will see 403 back next month for an action item again. Are there board leadership or committee updates? Director Gabler.
Yes, thank you, Chair Allenberg. I am the representative at the Early Learning Center, and they wanted to call our attention to this week is being the week of the young child. And so the Early Learning Center has all sorts of activities that they are doing to recognize this week. And Mayor Hovland has declared this April 6th through the 12th, the week of the young child in Edina. And so we're just focused on the needs of young children and their families, and it recognizes the early childhood programs and services that meet those needs. So you will be probably seeing some social media posts about some of the great things happening over at the Early Learning Center, and just drawing attention to this week of recognition in that.
Great, I love that. Excellent. Director Barry?
You're on mute, Cheryl.
Okay, there we go. The LAC is updating our community contact lists. So we're developing a new form where people can give us their contact information so that if advocacy is needed for one of our legislative priorities, we can more efficiently activate people to contact our legislators. So look for that coming soon.
And to
Great
piggyback,
idea.
sorry about that. And to piggyback on that too. Sorry. We're gonna probably, before our next meeting, we're going to have a lot some advocacy items for each of the people that we'll be meeting about tomorrow at our LIC meeting, or on Wednesday about our LIC meeting. So
Great. Thank you, LAC committee. Appreciate that. And really good idea. I appreciate that. I don't have a committee update per se, but I wanted to just take the opportunity to thank our tech team for their outstanding job putting this online meeting together and doing all the presentations in short time. It's, other than a couple of snafus on personal parts, it's gone, flawlessly. So thank you very much to our tech team. With that, I'll turn it over to Superintendent Stanley for any superintendent updates.
Thanks, Chair Ellenberg, and thanks, for everybody who's working with the advocacy for LAC as well. Really appreciate that. Oh my gosh, Week of the Young Child, that is just fantastic. So again, I had mentioned this at work session. I just want to give a shout out to our robotics team. I had an opportunity to join the robotics meet on Saturday up in St. Cloud. I mean, they are just amazing. They're coding, just the engineering of the build of their robot. It is just phenomenal. And it was great to be able to spend some time up there, and then was able to come back down to the cities and attend the Boosters athletic program fundraiser. And thank you to everybody who attended. There was great food. There was a lot of laughter. I was outbid. I just have to say that on the girls' jersey. Way outbid, so that's okay. I needed to stay married, so I wasn't going to go home paying that much. And it was just fantastic. It never ceases to amaze me at just how committed our community is to our kids. And thank you to everyone who coordinates that. I know I get to see Dan sitting out there, and I know that there are so many other people there is an individual who, I mean, it was just an amazing fundraiser. So thank you to everyone who contributed and who attended. And for those who learned a little bit of line dancing as well, that was kind of fun to watch that. The other thing that I have, and I know it's going to take a while, but bear with me because we have so many email that have come in since our last meeting with people just shouting to the hilltops about different things that are great in our system. So here's our first one. Dear Superintendent Stanley and the leadership team of Edina Schools, I felt inspired to write to you to communicate some incredible things your Edina instrumental music teachers are doing in the Minnesota band community. I have recently assumed the position of president of the Minnesota Band Directors Association. In getting to know our executive board, I found it impressive that so many of your music teachers are actively engaged in leading our state organization. For instance, Geneva Fitzsimmons is our state honors jazz band coordinator and former president. Melody Snyder is our MBDA secretary. Charles Wise runs the youth band literature session for the Music Educators Midwinter Clinic. Paul Kyle not only represents Edina Schools as the associate director of Minnesota Symphonic Winds, but also is actively engaged by MBDA as the rep for NBA, National Band Association. Michael Moeller has served MBDA as well in a variety of positions. These music teachers, in addition to Mariah Haugland, Chris Gums, Andy Richter, and others, are all uppercase letters, all playing their instruments in adult community groups. These are not symbolic but duty driven. These roles are not symbolic but duty driven. Labor intensive roles which are entirely volunteer. Wow. I just cannot understate how supremely incredible the instrumental music educators in Edina Schools are. I've heard that there is an unspoken expectation that instrumental music educators in Edina, quote unquote, serve their profession. I don't know if that was a theme established by the great Bill Webb or if this is some philosophy adopted along the way. Regardless, you must know there are all uppercase here, no other districts in the state of Minnesota, which are so well represented in our Minnesota Professional Music Organization as Edina. Your band people are the uppercase, all uppercase, jewel in your crown at Edina, and I felt compelled to share this with you if you did not already know this. Thank you for supporting the fine arts and band specifically. It changes lives, and certainly your educators are also leaving their mark on the music scene in Minnesota. This not only deserves recognition, but also sincere appreciation. With sincerest appreciation offered, Claire Larson. Pretty amazing. This comes from a parent, Allison Gartner. She said, hello, as a parent of 4 kids, you always love to hear about a compliment about your kids when you are not around and they are out on their own. I don't believe there is a better feeling as a parent. Well, here's a compliment I received on Saturday night about our Edina kids. I was gifted tickets for the hockey game on Saturday night. I was there with my 8th grade daughter who attends Valley View Middle School. Our tickets were in the heart of the senior student section. I was chatting with the usher if we could sit somewhere else, and he said, of course. We were hanging out until more people showed up and we could find a couple of seats. We got to chatting with him. He said he worked every game during the tournament and that the Edina students were the most respectful and fun students and that we had the best student section. He said Edina gets a lot of hate, but they are the kindest students. I wanted to let you all know something positive because it's always nice to hear, and a lot of negative noise is generally what you hear about. Have a wonderful week and go Hornets. And I can contest to that because I was at the games and I mean, we were just so proud of them. Okay, here's another one. Good afternoon, board members. And I get your email. I originally intended to attend the meeting tonight, but have decided to send my thoughts as an email. This is back on March 4th. as an email since I will not be able to attend in person. Thank you in advance for your consideration. My name is Tony Comer, and I am a building substitute for the 23-24 school year at Valley View Middle School. I am here to talk about my experience as a building sub. Serving at Valley View Middle School as a building substitute has been one of the most beautiful, rewarding experiences of my life so far. I have enjoyed opportunities to deeply interact with the staff and feel like a part of the team. Every day brings a new assignment, and it is wonderful to interact with a different, or in parentheses, or the same group of students each day of the week. The position is flexible, and I am able to fit it in wherever needed. This works for me and allows me to feel like I am truly meeting a need. Through this experience, I've been blessed to work with amazing professionals who get up every day to come to school and do their jobs with humility and discipline. I am grateful for the opportunity and would definitely encourage the school board to continue to allow building substitutes to serve across the district. Serving on a team with other building subs, 3 others at Valley View Middle School, has been magnificent. This is a great investment for people who are looking to start a career in education. It has also been great for semi-retired educators. No matter one's life's experiences or career goals, subbing can provide a magnificent experience. Thanks for your hard work as school board officials. Please continue to create spaces for building substitutes and young aspiring educators to grow and plug in. Yay, that was fantastic. And then this next one that I received, Dr. Stanley, I wanted to take a moment to express how fortunate my family has been to work with Carmine Levoir at Southview Middle School. Carmine has been helping us navigate accommodations for our 7th grader who was recently diagnosed with an aggressive degenerative genetic condition that affects his mobility and balance. Our lives have been turned upside down, and while my husband and I have been essentially falling apart, he has been able to weather this all tremendously well due to so much support at school. Carmine has been a big part of that. She not only goes above and beyond to make sure that he is safe at school, she does it in a way that doesn't make him feel like he is weird or sick. Her kindness and dedication to her students is truly a gift. Just wanted to pass along our gratitude that Edina Public Schools has risen to the challenge to help us keep life going as normal as possible for our son. We are thankful and appreciative. Pretty amazing. Okay, hang in there. I have one more. Hi, Dr. Stanley, Edina School Board, and Principal Bass. My name is Molly Winkus. I have 3 of 4 children currently attending Edina Public Schools. Our oldest is an 8th grader at Valley View. I just wanted to take a moment to pass along our sentiments regarding the culture and values that have been created at the middle school in such a short period of time. Principal Bass has brought changes to Valley View that have made a significant impact on the climate in the building. Our son enthusiastically talks about the many interactions he has with Principal Bass. There is rarely a day that goes by that he doesn't see him engaging with students on a very personal level. Mr. Bass has created a welcoming environment utilizing the parents and their talents to help mold the sense of community. Principal Bass is relatable, kind, supportive, and engaged. He's decisive, proactive, communicative, and dedicated to his vision for Valley View's whole community. He is exactly what this building needed desperately. I was a teacher of 1st and 4th grade at Creek Valley from 2001 to 2014. I've been around to see a lot of change in administration over the years. Principal Bass is by far your best hire in a long time. Well done, EPS. This fresh face is going to make quite a positive impact for years to come. I will be shouting from the rooftops on what a remarkable place Valley View is and will continue to be under Principal Bass's leadership. And then there's a PS. Our younger 2 girls are at French Immersion. We adore all uppercase Chris Holden, think his leadership is top-notch and his presence is essential for the high level of instruction that is happening at Normandale. Those are some incredible bucket fillers. And thank you to everyone when you take the time. I always think it's incredibly meaningful when community members, parents, our elders, oh my gosh, representatives of an organization literally take the time out to send in positive information, and just appreciate that and want to make sure that our staff is recognized for that. Our staff and our students, way to go, students at the hockey game. Really proud of you too.
Absolutely. You never have to apologize for spending a long time saying positive things about our district. I'll sit here all night,
Yeah.
almost all night. So, thank you very much.
You bet.
Outstanding. With that concludes all of our agenda items other than adjourning. So do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
We will now vote by roll call to adjourn the meeting.
Allenberg,
Aye.
Aram,
Aye.
Barry,
Aye.
Birdman,
Aye.
Gabler,
Aye.
Mann.
Aye.
By a vote of 6-0, the motion to adjourn is approved. And we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night.